Your grocery store presents you with an illusion of choice. For centuries, our ancestors ate from gardens of incredible biodiversity. Today, we've traded that for a handful of vegetables bred for profit, not for you. That wall of uniform, plastic-wrapped produce isn't a sign of progress. It's a story of what we've lost. These forgotten plants didn't just fade away. They were pushed out, squeezed from the system because they couldn't be planted by machine, harvested by machine, and shipped 2,000 miles without spoiling. They were too resilient, too nutritious, and too hard to control. Today, we're digging into that forbidden history. These are the plants they tried to make you forget. Let's begin. Number 10. Rampion, Campanula rapunculus. Here's a vegetable so valued in medieval Germany, it inspired one of the most famous fairy tales ever written. The story of Rapunzel isn't named for the girl, it's named for the plant. In the original tale, a pregnant woman craves rampion so badly, her husband risks death to steal it. That's how important this vegetable was. Rampion was a cornerstone of the medieval winter garden. It had sweet, nutty-flavored leaves for salads and a crisp white root, often compared to a sweet radish, but its real power was its timing. Rampion is incredibly cold-hardy. Its leaves would stay green deep into the winter, a time when scurvy was a very real threat. Monastery records, like the detailed plans of the Abbey of St. Gall in Switzerland, listed it as a critical planting. For months, it was the only green thing on the table. So why was it pushed out? Simple. Rampion is slow. The root takes a full year, sometimes two, to reach a harvestable size. A modern radish is ready in 25 days. The industrial market, driven by fast turnover, has no time for a root that needs 12 months when it can sell one that needs 3 weeks. Speed, not lack of flavor, killed its commercial prospects. For your garden, its slow nature is a feature, not a bug. You can sow rampion in the spring, ignore it all summer, and be rewarded with fresh food in the dead of winter. It fills a nutritional gap almost nothing else can. Number 9. Alexander's, Smyrnium olusatrum. Before the watery crunch of modern celery took over, there was Alexander's. Brought to Britain by the Romans, it was the original celery for over 1,000 years. Every part of the plant was used. The stems were eaten raw or cooked, with a flavor far more complex and aromatic than modern celery. The leaves flavored broths like parsley with a peppery kick. Even the black seeds were used as a potent seasoning, like black pepper. It was the ultimate all-in-one vegetable. Monastery gardens prized it for its hardiness and its aggressive, self-seeding nature. It was a plant that wanted to grow, and that was its downfall. As Italian gardeners developed modern celery, a more commercially convenient plant took over. Celery could be grown in neat rows and shipped long distance. Alexander's, with its hollow stems that bruise easily and its wild, uncontrollable urge to spread, didn't fit. It wasn't banned by law, it was squeezed out by logistics. A superior tasting plant was abandoned because it was inconvenient for a supply chain that values transportability over taste. Number 8. Sorrel, Romex acetosa. Imagine a green so potently flavorful it could cut through the bland medieval diet with a single leaf. That was sorrel. Its sharp, lemony bite was a shock of excitement in a world of endless gruel. But sorrel wasn't just flavor, it was a survival. This resilient perennial grew everywhere, requiring no cultivation. For medieval peasants, it was a gift. Its high levels of vitamin C made it a crucial defense against scurvy, and herbalists believed it cleansed the blood. It was both food and pharmacy, growing freely for anyone. So why did it vanish? Because its greatest strength in a medieval garden is its fatal flaw in a supermarket. Sorrel has an incredibly short shelf life. The leaves wilt within hours of being picked. You can't truck it across the country. You can't store it in a warehouse. A vegetable that wilts before it can be packaged and shipped is commercially useless. It was quietly removed from the equation because it couldn't withstand the brutal logistics of the modern supply chain. Number 7. Lovage, Levisticum officinalis. In the world of medieval plants, lovage was the overachiever, a vegetable, a herb, and a medicine, all in one tall, commanding plant. Its flavor is immense, an intensified version of celery and parsley with a warm, spicy undertone. A single leaf could flavor an entire pot of soup. Its most incredible trait was its persistence. Lovage is a hardy perennial, planted once, and a single plant could produce abundantly for 20 years or more. It was the definition of a low-effort, high-reward crop. So what happened? Lovage was a victim of its own intensity. The same powerful flavor that made it valuable became a liability. The industrial palate prefers mild, predictable flavors. Lovage is anything but. Its milder cousin, celery, was easier to market to a mass audience. Lovage was deemed too powerful, its personality too strong to be profitable on a mass scale. It was another casualty in the great flattening of flavor. Number 6. Turnip greens. Brassica rapa greens. We think of turnips as root vegetables, but for most of history, the root was the secondary prize. The true treasure was the leaves. In medieval Europe, turnip greens were a lifeline. Farmers would harvest the outer leaves throughout the season, providing a continuous supply of fresh greens for months. The root was left in the ground as storage food for deep winter. Nutritionally, the peasants had it right. By weight, the greens are vastly superior to the root, containing significantly more calcium, vitamin A, and protein. This was a nutrient-dense superfood that sustained entire populations. The decline of turnip greens is a story of shifting priorities. As agriculture industrialized, the focus moved from subsistence to commerce. The root could be stored for months, shipped long distances, and sold by weight. It became the commodity. The perishable leaves were seen as a byproduct, or animal feed. The system prioritized the part of the plant that could be sold, not the part that was most nutritious. We literally started throwing away the best part. Number 5. Sea kale, Crambi marittima. Along the salty, windswept coasts of Europe, a remarkable vegetable thrives. Sea kale is a rugged native member of the cabbage family. For centuries, it was foraged by coastal communities. Its true delicacy is its shoots. In the 18th and 19th centuries, it became a luxury. Gardeners would force it by covering the crowns with pots to block the light, producing tender, pale shoots eaten like asparagus with a nutty, sweet flavor. But its popularity became its undoing. It was foraged so aggressively that its wild harvest is now restricted in many parts of the UK. The real nail in its coffin, however, was the rise of modern asparagus, which could be machine harvested on an industrial scale. Sea kale is a perennial. It doesn't conform to neat rows. Its harvest is a delicate, manual process. These are virtues in a home garden, but unforgivable sins in industrial agriculture. It was easier to replace it with faster, more uniform crops. For your garden, you can grow this incredible perennial from seeds or cuttings. By planting it, you are not just cultivating a gourmet vegetable, you are helping restore a plant almost lost to its deliciousness. Number 4. Tansy, Tanacetum vulgare. Not every forgotten plant was a staple food. Some, like tansy, were used as a tool. Before refrigeration, keeping food from spoiling was a matter of life and death. In that battle, tansy was a secret weapon. This fiercely aromatic herb has compounds, including thujone, with antimicrobial properties. Meats were rubbed with its leaves to slow spoilage. Bundles of tansy were hung in kitchens to repel flies. It was a natural preservative and pesticide in one. Its decline was swift for 2 reasons. First, refrigeration made its primary purpose obsolete. Second, its key compound, thujone, was found to be toxic in large doses. This is a classic example of losing traditional knowledge. Medieval cooks knew to use tansy sparingly. As this nuanced knowledge was lost, tansy was rebranded from a useful culinary tool to a dangerous, poisonous weed. It was easier to label it toxic and forget it than to re-educate people on its proper use. Number 3. Chickweed, Stellaria meaty. This next plant is probably in your garden right now. You've likely pulled it and cursed it. But this common weed is one of the most historically important vegetables on this list. For centuries, chickweed was not a weed, it was a gift. A foraged green that provided critical nutrition, especially during the hungry gap of late winter when stored foods ran low. It grows year-round, a carpet of tender green just when it's needed most. And nutritionally, it's a tight with incredibly high levels of vitamin C along with iron and calcium. Its flavor is mild and fresh, like a delicate version of spinach. So how did this free superfood become public enemy number 1 in our gardens? You cannot build a business model around a plant that grows everywhere for free. Chickweed resists control. It can't be patented. Its delicate structure is impossible to machine harvest. The entire agricultural industry is built on creating dependency. Chickweed represents the opposite, total food independence. To deal with this, it was relabeled as a weed. We now spend money on herbicides to kill a free, nutrient-dense food our ancestors cherished. Number 2. Black salsify, Scorzonera hispanica. Imagine a vegetable known for centuries as the vegetable oyster. This is black salsify. When peeled and cooked, its creamy white flesh has a remarkable flavor, subtly reminiscent of oysters or artichoke hearts. Cultivated since at least the 16th century, it was a staple in monasteries and wealthy gardens. But beyond its taste, salsify is exceptionally high in inulin, a prebiotic fiber that nourishes beneficial gut bacteria. A 2018 study confirmed its roots are a rich source of inulin, containing up to 22% by dry weight. In an era before probiotics were a buzzword, people were eating salsify for their gut health. Salsify's disappearance is a textbook case of industrial inconvenience. First, it's slow, often requiring over 120 days. Second, its roots are long, thin, and often forked, impossible to handle by machine. The industrial system demands uniform carrots in round potatoes. Salsify fails this test. It was a craftsman's vegetable in a factory-farmed world, pushed aside for the simple, uniform parsnip. Number 1. Good King Henry, Chenopodium bonus henricus. We arrive at number 1, perhaps the most complete example of a food plant erased by the industrial system. For hundreds of years, this wasn't just a vegetable, it was an entire garden in one plant. Its versatility is astounding. In spring, the young shoots were cut and cooked like asparagus. As it grew, its broad leaves were harvested and cooked like spinach. Later, the unopened flower buds could be steamed and eaten like broccoli. Shoots, leaves, and buds, 3 distinct vegetables from one perennial plant. Nutritionally, it contains significantly more iron and calcium than modern spinach. It's a perennial. Once established, it comes back for decades with virtually no care. It thrives in poor soil and tolerates shade. It offered food security for free. So why was this perfect vegetable pushed out? It commits every sin against the industrial food system. It's a perennial, so you don't buy seeds every year. It's slow to establish in its first year. Its growth is sprawling and weedy, not suited for mechanical cultivation. Spinach, an annual that could be grown quickly in uniform rows, was promoted as its replacement, despite being nutritionally inferior. We were convinced to abandon a superior, self-sufficient food source for a less nutritious, commercially convenient substitute. So there you have it. 10 vegetables that weren't just forgotten, they were pushed aside because they were too slow, too irregular, too fragile, or too free. They didn't fit a model that prioritizes profit and shelf life above nutrition and resilience. We have traded a vast library of genetic diversity for a handful of patented high-maintenance crops. We have been taught to see resilience as a flaw and to call independence a weed. But the story doesn't have to end there. This knowledge is power. These plants still exist. They are in heirloom seed catalogs and sometimes growing wild just beyond our doors. You can bring them back. Plant a perennial like lovage or Good King Henry and have food for years. Let a patch of chickweed grow and harvest something more nutritious than you can buy. This is about reclaiming your food sovereignty. By growing even one of these plants, you are preserving living history. You are voting for biodiversity, resilience, and for a food system that nourishes people, not just profits. The real forbidden history isn't about what was banned, it's about what was silently erased. And now, you know how to write a new chapter. What do you think? Which of these forgotten vegetables surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you believe this story needs to be told, give this video a like and subscribe for more deep dives into our forgotten food heritage.